Okay, hello, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum. Welcome back to the Malay Heritage Center. Uh, Hi, I'm Jamal, Senior Manager Programs at the Malay Heritage Center, and today we'll be having a talk on the Hikayat Banja, a narrative of cultural embeddedness. I'd like to say this is the first time we're having a live audience back here again since COVID started. Also, good afternoon to our viewers watching from home. So first time ada audience kat sini, ada audience kat rumah. A bit stressful today, Dr. Hazal. Yeah. Okay, anyway, so this lecture is part of our special exhibition, which we just launched last night, Orang Banja, Heritage and Culture of the Banja in Singapore, and Malay Culture Fest 2020. This exhibition is the 5th installment of MHC's community co-curated Se-Nusantara series, which started in 2014, with MHC having previously worked with the Baoyanis, Minangkabau, the Javanese and Bugis communities to showcase their respective cultural heritage. This year, it's the Banjar's turn. So I have some members from the Banjaris community in the audience today. Good afternoon to you guys. Thanks for coming. So we've worked very closely with the close-knit Banja community in Singapore for this exhibition to capture their personal stories, and feature their family belongings in the exhibition, as well as to have them be involved in the various accompanying programs. Through this, we hope to promote and document the tangible and intangible cultural heritage of the Banja in Singapore. I have to say this research has not been done. This is the first time anyone has actually looked into the history of the Banjas in Singapore, and we hope that our efforts and the community's efforts will carry on, that we will continue to archive and document the histories of the various Malay groups in Singapore. Right? Through the exhibition, as well as the annual Malay Culture Fest, we also want to highlight the interconnectedness and shared heritage of the Malay community across the Malay archipelago. The exhibition, for your information, will run till July next year, while the Malay Culture Fest will run for 2 weeks. So this year also the Malay Culture Fest is quite different from previous years. It's the first time we're doing a full a digital festival. So to find out more about the festival, do check out our festival microsite at malayheritage.gov.sg slash MCF2020. Right? You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram to get the latest updates. Okay, because today we have both audiences in the auditorium and also at home, I have some housekeeping rules. Usually when we have just audience here for the Q&A session, we'll give you a microphone, then you ask the question. But because of the restrictions for this year, we cannot do that. And also because we have audiences at home who might have questions to pose to our speaker today, we will be putting it all on one platform. So if you have any questions, do take a picture of the QR code. So later you can post your questions on Slido and I can read it on my device, and then Dr. Azhar will respond accordingly. So all of your questions, whether you're here or whether you're watching at home, right, we will get it all on this platform. All right? So cepat-cepat ambil. Don't worry, I will flash it again at the end. All right? Okay. Okay, Hikayat Banja, a narrative of cultural embeddedness. So Dr. Azhar Ibrahim is from Department of Malay Studies, National University of Singapore. This talk today, the Hikayat, is often regarded as one of Nusantara's best historiographic texts, which covers the polities of South Kalimantan. While the dynastic myth and the political history is central in this chronicle, it also offers various accounts of the cultural embeddedness in the history of the Banjari society. Delineating those cultural context and acculturation as narrated in the Hikayat shall provide us insights into the cultural dynamics of accommodation and competition that is not uncommon in Nusantara's cultural history. Certainly, Hikayat Banja is one of the court texts that distinctively amplify this fact eloquently. So this is Dr. Azhar Ibrahim, PhD, is a lecturer of Department of Malay Studies, National University of Singapore. Dr. Azhar teaches Malay Indonesian literature and ideologies of development at the department. His research interests include sociology of religion, sociology of literature, critical literacy, and the Malay Indonesian intellectual development. Amongst his published books are Emancipated Education, Historical Imagination and Cultural Responses to Colonialism and Nationalism, a Critical Malaysian Perspective. Menyanggah belenggu kerancuan fikiran masa kini, Contemporary Islamic Discourse in the Malay-Indonesia World, Critical Perspectives, and Narrating Presence, Awakening from Cultural Amnesia. Dr. Azhar, welcome to Malay Heritage Center. Okay. Apa khabar awak? Okay.
Thank you, Jamal. I'm good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. So, I understand you recently hurt yourself. Baru jatuh
Yes,
Yeah.
baru jatuh, and this is the reason why I have to give this lecture
Sitting
sitting
down.
down.
Usually we have a rostrum where Dr. Azhar will be presenting, but not today. Oh, there's more people coming in. Please take your seats. We have started. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Azhar, without further ado, I'll let you start with your presentation today. Silakan.
Yeah, terima kasih Jamal. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yeah. Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your time. This is a lovely afternoon. It's my pleasure to share some of my readings on Hikayat Banja, which actually we read it at Department of Malay Studies during our classical Malay module. Yeah, and that was many years ago, right? But since I'm also in the Malay Heritage Foundation board, and Jamal was thinking about this event, and yesterday was the launch, I volunteered myself to give a talk on Hikayat Banja, which I'm familiar with at one time, on the history of the different dynastic based on the Hikayat. Yeah? But since we are in Malay Cultural Week, right, Cultural Fairs, sorry, my focus is on the cultural dimension in this text. Yeah? This is a huge text, and it's impossible for us to give a talk for 45 minutes on this. So I'm only zooming on the cultural dimension of this text. Yeah? So the title of my talk is a court narrative of cultural embeddedness. Yeah? So embeddedness could be also entrenchment, yeah, over years of layerings, right, and persistencies. Yeah? So this is a very interesting text compared to some other texts, which mostly about the dynastic competition, right? This text, surprisingly to me, the author must be someone who is really very much in tune with things cultural, because the parlance used, the imageries used, were very much telling us about the personality of the writer, who's unknown, but also the kind of the cultural milieu, the cultural environment of this polity. Yeah? It was a kerajaan before, and then it became a sultanate later. Yeah? All right, let me begin to start this. Yeah? And I need to use my spectacle. Yeah? So if you read, this is one of the quotation here. The imageries used, for example, the one on, let me read here. If I may read the Malay version, since you know you can see from the slides, yeah? If I read the Malay version, all right, I think it's quite interesting. You want to know something about the kind of Malay in this text, yeah? Let me read. Hai anakku, Ratu Anom, aku memegang perintah ini sudah 5 tahun lamanya. Sekarang ini aku sudah uzur, tiada dapat lagi pulang pagi ke Paseban. Pada semasa ini perintah itu hendak aku serahkan arah di Pati Tapasana. Maka sembah Ratu Anom, kaulah tiada langgana. Dari dahulunya datang sakian ini. Barang karsa sampian tiada kaulah langgana. Kaulah ini umpama wayang, sampian itu umpama dalang. Tiada kaulah melanggana. Yeah, so, if you read, the text is of course written in the Malay Jawi text. It's a literary Malay, But of course, we can see here two words, yeah, two corpus from the Javanese words and of course from the Banjarese words, right? The author wrote this text in Malay, right? And this Malay comprised of, we call it, can be called colloquial Malay, yeah? In the sense that it incorporates the terminologies of the Banjarese words, yeah? And Banjarese words also have strong corpus from the Dayak language, yeah, and of course the Javanese terminologies, yeah. In fact, at one time, if you look at names of Banjar rulers, right, they address themselves as Penambahan or Susuhunan, right, which are the terminologies of the Majapahit rulers or the Javanese rulers, yeah. All right. So this is and the image here is the one on, yes, yes, ma'am. Okay, so I was about to go, yeah. It's 49 slides, yeah. So one by one, right? Inshallah, I will do it, yeah. Okay. So this text, the one in this image, this is a translation. This book was initially published in English, J.J. Ras, right? This is his PhD actually, right? And Siti Hawu Haji Saleh, Doyan in classical Malay literature, right? She translated this version into English, into Malay, yeah? But of course the text, the actual text itself is in Melayu, okay? All right. So, I'm a bit slow, yeah. Sorry for that because today I'm not as robust. Yeah, yeah, maybe. Yeah. So this Hikayat, I think just now Jamal have more or less read the abstract, yeah. And these are the image here is the map from during the Dutch period, right? Dutch had a strong interest on Banjarmasin. I will explain later. All right. All right. Next, Jamal. Okay, so it is a typical court genealogy, yeah, of its mythical dynastic origin. Yeah? Similar like Sejarah Melayu, Hikayat Pasai, yeah? Hikayat Siak, Tufat Al-Nafis, all Malay polity kerajaan Melayu, they have their own called Hikayat, yeah? Including Aceh have their own Hikayat Aceh. Right? So it's and typical of those texts, there's always constant struggle of powers, of disputes and alignment, political and diplomatic maneuverings. You know, sometimes you read, you know, you bogged down by, you know, so many facts. Yeah, and as you know, in the past, rulers they change name also, so it's a bit confusing at times to read. Yeah, so but one interesting point in this text is those who are refined culturally and aesthetically superior holds the legitimate power, meaning that this text tries to point out something. Right? If you are culturally refined, right, your power status, this is my reading, yeah, your power status will be enhanced. Right? This is slightly different from other Malay historiographic texts. So here, the command of cultural refinement becomes the mainstay. Yeah? So to keep the state cultural sanction means guaranteeing the stability of the kingdom and the people. I will quote later what I mean by this. Right? So again, I must repeat, the emphasis on the importance of keeping your culture, right, is a strong feature in this text. Right? Jamal, next. Yeah. All right. So this is just a long list of normally what is the what you can expect from historiographic text, yeah, where there is facts and myth intermesh, yeah, the ideology of the ruling class, especially the supernatural origin and superiority of the rulers, right? For example, in many Malay texts on the origin of Malay ruler from Putri Junjung Bueh, right, which also appear in this text. This is the very old Malay, Sumatran, Malay Peninsula, and Bornean methodology, which you don't find, say, in Java, for instance. Right? So it's also about dynastic succession, court intrigue, wars, yeah? But most importantly also the account of great men. One of the great men in this text is Lambu Mangkurat, right? Just like in Sejarah Melayu, it will be Tun Perak as the leading man, just like Patih Gajah Mada in Negara Kertagama, which is in the Javanese text, but for this text is the Lambu Mangkurat, right? One of the senior statesmen of the Old Kingdom, right, before the Sultanate. Okay? And then the court rituals and demonstrative spectacles, the admonition and advice by rulers and princes, the hierarchical order of the society. This one, their order and the hierarchy is more complex as compared to Sejarah Melayu, for instance, right? They even have one interesting class of people who just play gamelan, right? Yeah, so that is part of their division of work and also a kind of special class just to play gamelan, right? Glimpses of the organization of society, constituents of the socio-economic activities of the people. We know what kind of crops they grew, the kind of food they eat. It was very interesting text, yeah? And its relation with the outside world, right? It mentioned about its emissary to India and also to China, for instance, right? And of course to Majapahit, and of course the dominant cultural and linguistic influences, okay? So this text is roughly written from the 16th to 17th century. Sometimes some would say from 15 to 17, right? So the time span is very long. Just like any other Malay text, right? We don't know the author, with the exception of, say, Sejarah Melayu. We know it's Tun Sri Lanang, right? But even then, Sejarah Melayu for Tun Sri Lanang is the later version, right? The first version of Sejarah Melayu, we don't know the author. So it's not uncommon here that we don't know the author. But for sure, the author is, I will say, a genius, if not a talented person, right? The way he carved the story is well made. Yeah? And of course, the extant text, meaning text yang kita gunakan hari ini, right? The text that is a survival text from the 19th century. Most Malay texts survive, yeah, recopied again in the 19th century. So the one that you have this version, J.J. Ras did, right? There are two, Jamal, can you start? Yeah? Two recension, yeah? Recension 1 and recension 2. The one that I use today comes from the recension 1, right? What does it mean? Basically something like this. There are texts which is from the court and some text which is from the rakyat. The rakyat text normally for wayang kulit to be used. For court text, kept by the ruling class as part of their genealogy. Yeah? Okay? So it works that way generally. Okay? So in these images that you see, these are some of the Malay texts. Misa Melayu from Perak also tells about the court procedure, right? Court ceremonies, right? But not as beautifully as Hikayat Banja, right? Sejarah Melayu, of course, we have it, but also I would say not as comprehensive as Hikayat Banja. And Adat Raja-Raja Melayu is also a post-Malaccan Sultanate text about the adat-adat, yeah, the ceremonies, but it's a bit too dry. Right? A lot of facts, but not as beautifully as Hikayat Banja. Yeah? All right, next. So this is where I mentioned just now, and possibly completed in 1663 AD. Right? So the recension 1 and recension 2 you can see here. And just a short note here that at one time when Raffles was in Java, Raffles was interested to get this copy. Because I think Raffles was trying to compile the history of the Nusantara world. So this is a text that he wanted to require, and he asked Sultan of Pontianak, which is the neighboring state, the neighboring Kalimantan Barat, right? Kalimantan Timur, yeah, Kalimantan Timur, yeah. So we have today Indonesia, Kalimantan Selatan, which is the Banjaris area. Kalimantan Timur, which is the Pontianak area, Sambas. Kalimantan Tengah, which is the Palangkaraya, and then Kalimantan Timur. Yeah, so there are 4 Kalimantan states here. So here you see the images. Yeah, this is the Malay text, the Jawi Malay text. Yeah, and there were also Romanized Malay, which was recopied by the Dutch later. Okay, all right, next, Jamal. Okay, this is the text that I'm using, I'm referring. Yeah, okay. And J.J. Russ is the one, I think he completed his PhD based on this study. It's a very comprehensive study, right? So far, I think only C.C. Sens and J.J. Russ. These are all, we call it, the study of text, are very intricate, you know. People spend decades just to study text, yeah. I don't have that strength, yeah, because I'm looking at sociology of culture, basically, sociology of intellectual life. Next, Jamal. Okay, but what is interesting here, let me quote from J.J. Russ in his another article, yeah, that we need to put Banja in the cultural map of Nusantara. If you look at the map, right, you can see how close Banjar Masin, right, with Java. So the close connection with the Java, yeah. So it, in a sense, it was a Malay polity, and according to historians, 1,000 years ago, that the Malay settlers from Sumatra migrated to parts of Borneo. This is theory, yeah? This is not facts, yeah? Theory, right? Because people want to make sense, right? So, and then the original inhabitants, the Dayak, later on intermingle and mix, right? And then it evolved into that, what we call today the Banja people, right? I'm sure my friends from the Banjar community have their other ways of expounding the origin of the Banja people. But this is, I would say, a theory. So it's nothing, you know, black and white facts, yeah, because we have to make sense of it, right? So in a sense that it is a Malay polity, right? Malay in the biggest sense, yeah, not Malay as suku, a bigger Malay, but strongly Majapahit in its in its style, right? And there is 3 basic layerings: Malay, Dayak, and Javanese, right? So that's how it is, yeah. So this is where J.J. Russ says that the Java Sea has divided Indonesian archipelago into 2 different spheres of influence, a Javanese and a Malay one. Right? In the south, we find the island of Java with its large population, its considerable resources and impressive culture. In the west and the north, we find a great many separate regions, of which Malayu, which centered in the Palembang area, right, was the most influential. In fact, if you see, throughout the history of this region, there's always a contestation, right, be it overt or subtle, between these 2 powers, the Majapahit and the Sriwijaya, right? We can sense that, you know, based on Batu Besurat, you know, the kind of expression. So some areas of the Malay region that has Javanese influence includes Palembang also. And even, let's say, for Lampung, it might have strong Bantenese influence, right? Like things Malay. How do we know things Malay? Yeah? Kain samping. Yeah? The Javanese court will use their kain, you know, what we call it? Javanese kain itu, yeah? I don't know the term, sorry. Yeah? You see, the Javanese court, all the men wear sarung, right? Not sarung. Kain Raden itulah, yeah, right? But for Malay courts, you will see they are wearing samping, trousers and samping, and their headgear is tengkolok, all right? Whereas the Javanese headgear is different. So if you do a cultural mapping, you can make sense of that. No Malay royalty normally wear batik in its ceremonial, none. Only the Javanese, the Maduris and the Balinese. And Balinese also have 2, the Songket and the Batik. But in the Malay polity, you can see from Aceh right up to all the way to Ternate, right? There's you know, the samping, you know, and tengkolo and so on. So Banja belongs to both actually. So that's more interesting part to it. Yeah. All right. So and J.J. Ras noted that the Banjaris tradition contained in Hikayat Banja showed that the Javanese influence on the political affairs of Southeast Borneo was quite strong. At times it may have been welcome, but at other moments it was thrusted upon Banjaris by force. Right? So this is something like Hikayat Hang Tuah. Yeah? Hikayat Hang Tuah, you see also Javanese elements, but you can see a Malay voice resisting Stinks Java. Right? Likewise in this text also. Yeah? At one time they embraced things Javanese, but when they entered the Javanese court of Majapahit, they want to show that they are different from the Javanese. Right? So this what makes this text interesting. Yeah? And mind you, yeah, I'm sharing this based on this text. I'm not basing on other facts. Yeah? So this is the text. That's why the title of this text is on Hikayat Banja. I'm not talking about Banja per se, right? Based on this text. Yeah. All right. Next, Jamal. So essentially, Malay Banja polity within the orbit of Javanese political and cultural hegemony, and you can see the Javanese influence in two eras: the Majapahit Hindu era, and when Java became Islamicized, the Ma and Pajang Sultanate, it gave that influence to the Banjaris polity. And the text here is, I'm just giving you an example of the Islamic text. Yeah? If I'm not mistaken, Sheikh Muhammad Ashar al-Banjari's text. Okay? One of the well-known ulama of Nusantara, right? Who wrote many interesting texts. Yeah? So it is, okay, Jamal, can we, I think it's about the same. All right, so let's begin with the first state here. Yeah, the Nagara Dipa. If you look, there's English quotation there, all right? And let me just read to you the quotation in Malay. Yeah? Mula-mulanya, saudagar Keleng bernama saudagar Mangkubumi. Itu terlalu kaya beberapa menaruh gadung dan kicil dan kapal, dan salup dan konting dan penyalang dan galiung, tiada paripanai banyaknya. Dan yang menyimpan emas dan perak dan segala permata yang elok-elok. Maka ada beranak seorang laki-laki, maka dinamanya Ampu Jatmaka. Dan dinamai istrinya saudagar Mangkubumi itu Siti Rara. Maka Ampu Jatmaka itu beristri Sari Manguntu. Itu beranak laki-laki 2 orang. Namanya yang tua itu Ampu Mandastana dan namanya yang muda itu bernama Lambu Mangkurat. Yeah? So if you can see here, the text, it's about a merchant from India, supposedly. Right? Historian and textual studies don't know where is this saudagar came from. Yeah, is it from Java or is it from India, right? So J.J. Ras was in the opinion that based on the consistency of the text, it must be from India, right? So this is something like, this theory of a merchant ruler, this adventurer who came to this part of the world, right? Established a colony and become a ruler, right? So this is the first, so not the first ruler, but later on his son. Yeah, his son is Ampu Jatmaka. Ampu Jatmaka is the one that will establish the kingdom of Nagara Dipa. So there are 3 phases in this text: Nagara Dipa, Nagara Daha, and the Banjari Sultanate. So you have to read 3 phases in this text. Yeah, okay. All right, the image here is actually, I couldn't get the Chandi, yeah, from the Banjar area. This is from the Kutai region, right? Borneo itself have few Chandis apart from Java. So this is the nearest. So Kutai is also another old Malay kingdom, yeah, in Borneo. In fact, one of the oldest actually, right? The Batu Besurat in Kutai is one of the oldest too. Okay, next, Jamal. Okay, so what happened is this. Ampu Jatmaka, the son, right? The father said, well, go to this part of the world and establish a new place, or a new Nagara. Yeah? So he apparently founded a settlement called Tanjung Pura. This is a very old Malay polity, always appeared in many Malay texts. Many Malay texts will refer to this Tanjung Pura. Right? Is I think, in fact, one of the oldest. Yeah. And also either this Tanjung Pura located in this place called Ujung Tanah. Yeah. And Ujung Tanah, if you read Sejarah Melayu, Ujung Tanah refer to Singapore. Yeah. Refer to Johor, Singapore and Johor at times. Right. But here the Ujung Tanah does not refer to Singapore or Johor for that matter. It refers to that part of Borneo. It's quite strange because we know all Malay texts will say Ujung Tanah referring to Malay Peninsula, the last tip of Malay Peninsula, but not for this text for some reason. Yeah. So what happened? Ampu Jatmaka commissioned 2 statues berhala, which is made of sandalwood as an establishment. It could be, I think, Hindu statues. Yeah? So they were not happy, and eventually he ordered, say, iron cast statues, right? And they said that we need to build a stronger, a sturdy one. He said, it's not possible, we don't have the technology. The only people who can build this are the Chinese. So they sent an emissary to the Chinese emperor and asked, and therefore, the Chinese sent envoys, I think also to explain the arrival of the Chinese community in that part of the region, right? So it's also interesting that the new state was created in that sense, right? With this establishment of a complex state structure and so on. Yeah? But then, they are not the real ruler in that sense. They established the colony. They want to look for local, because he said that, I'm not of this royal blood. I cannot claim sovereign of this land. So they went for an expedition, right, to look for a ruler, right? And that ruler, of course, comes from this mythical, legendary Putri Junjung Bui, which is back again to that Malay mythical legend. Yeah, and the structures is so complex, and amongst others, there's this musical corps, a special class of people called Orang Pergamalan, which is gamelan, yeah, pergamalan, yeah, and the Javanese dress as the official coat for the court and the people, right? And this is a strong indication of the link with Java, of course. And the image here is one of the old Chandi in the Banjar area. Yeah? Okay, next. Yamal. All right, so this is where you could imagine the kind of things that they are wearing. Yeah? The closest that I get from this old edition of books, yeah, of Javanese dressing, yeah. So this is the closest, right? And we will see later on how it also evolved into the tanja and the samping and the trousers, right? So this is where the Nagara Dipa, the prosperous and multicultural state. Yeah? For example, it says, the court of King Nagara Dipa became renowned for the excellent way it was organized, and that was because it conducted conformity with arrangement and procedure followed by the king of Majapahit, and in agreement with the Javanese image. In the way they dressed too, followed by the Javanese fashion. Everyone in the land of Nagara Dipa had given the dressing in the style of Kling. Yeah, Kling, which means in Old Malay, Indian. Yeah, because at that time there's no word for India. Kling or Kaling means Kalinga, which refers to the Indians, right? Later on, when the another Indians group came, which is called Bengali, that's only. Then when the Portuguese came, the Malays couldn't make sense who are they because they look white. They call it Bengali Putih, right? Yeah, so that's how the etymology of words. Yeah, okay. And then later on, then the Arab style. Well, these are actually Frankish people. Yeah? Frankish. Yeah? Jadi the Malays call it Peringgi. Yeah. So Europeans are called, before the British came and the Dutch came, they were called Peringgi. So it's very interesting if you study classical Malay texts, you can get a lot of words here. So, the king of Nagara Dipa once said, with all the dignitaries and their subordinates were sitting before him in the audience hall. He says here, people of Nagara Dipa, let none of you dress like the Malays or the Hollanders or the Chinese or the Siamese or the Acehnese or the Makassaris or the Buginis. Do not imitate any of them. You should not even follow the old custom of dress from the time we still live in Keling. For it's no longer our country now. We have now set up a country of our own, following the ways and manners of Majapahit. Therefore, we should all dress like the Javanese. Right? So they take pride of that Javanese culture. Yeah? Of course, there are some words here, we call it anachronism, right? Dutch should not appear here because this text is copied later, because at that time Dutch never appeared. The Dutch only came here in the 16th century, 17th century rather. Yeah. Next. So this is Lambu Mangkurat. Yeah. If you read Sejarah Melayu, the strong flavor of Sejarah Melayu is Tun Perak. You read this text, this is the man, Lambu Mangkurat. So he was a son of Ampujat Maka. So he was the one who, he himself cannot claim to be the ruler, although in practical you know that he was governing it. So he dreamed that his father gave an instruction. He discovered Putri Junjung Bue. Yeah, this is part of the repertoire of all Malay texts to justify the establishment of a dynasty. Right? Just like in Sejarah Melayu, the dynasty is from Palembang, right? Yeah, the three princes from Palembang, right? That eventually became Sang Purba, and then gave rise later on to Sang Nila Utama, founded Singapore, and then later on Malacca, right? So similarly, you can see the pattern here, right? So what happened is the Putri Junjung Bue was made the queen, Ratu, all right? And she of course she's not married, right? And Lambu Mangkurat eventually went all out to find the consort, the husband for Putri Junjung Bue. Where can he find? Interestingly again, back to Java, right? Next, Saudara, next. Yeah, so Lambu Mangkurat went all the way to Java, requesting the Javanese ruler, the son, not the son, there's a mistake there, the son of the Javanese ruler to be married to Nagara Dipa's queen. And that son, this son is actually also a mythical son. And he was, the Majapahit ruler got him during the time of his bertapa. And this boy apparently appeared up on the mountain, right? So this boy is also a mythical boy. So just nice lah, yeah? Putri Junjung Bue and this mythical Raden called Raden Putra, right? Just to show the strong legitimacy of this dynasty, right? So all sultanates here, all polities here, have strong claims of their mythical rulers. Right? If let's say in the Bugis, right, the claim of say that the genealogy from Nabi Sulaiman, for instance, right? From Java, the genealogy from Nabi Adam, it's even longer, yeah. And then from Malacca, it is Iskandar Zulkarnain, right? And some other Malay states, smaller ones, from Ahlul Bait, yeah, Cucu Rasulullah, right? So it's quite interesting. Okay, next. So this is where Negara Daha was, this so-called the second state was established here, right? From Nagara Dipa to Nagara Daha. Yeah? The marriage between the Putri and Raden Putra, right? And here we can see, I just want to give you the sampling of the Malay text here. You can see, yeah. Hatta berapa lama? So you can read with a Malay pipet or with a. Yeah, it's up to you, right? Something which is typical of Malay text. It is written in Jawi Malay, but it can be read in the colloquial Banjaris, right? So standard writing across the region, standard Malay. But when you want to pronounce it, it's up to your regional flavor. Yeah? Hatta berapa lama kemudian daripada negeri Negara Dipa itu bertambah-tambah makmur, suka ramai. Banyak orang berniaga seperti Cina dan Melayu, orang Johor, orang Aceh, orang Melaka, orang Minangkabau, orang Patani, orang Mangkasar, orang Bugis, orang Sumbawa, orang Bali, orang Jawa, orang Bantuan, I don't know where is that, mungkin Bantan it could be. Orang Palembang, orang Jambi, orang Tuban, orang Madura, orang Walanda, yeah, Walanda which is Dutch, yeah. Orang Macau, yeah, that's so interesting, yeah, Macau, yeah. Orang Keling, yeah. Ada yang setengahnya itu berdiam sekali, orang-orang dagang-dagang itu banyaklah ia tiada tersebut. Just, you know, even you don't understand Malay also you can tell, right, roughly about, you know, the plurality of this Negara Daha. Yeah, next. So this is the marriage. I will not go. Yeah, this is just to tell you about how I think talented. Yeah, of a court pujangga. Yeah, blending various methodology, right, and putting it in under one good story theme, right? If you learn, you know, if you read here, ideology of political dynasty, you can see how this works, right? And of course, this is part and parcel of the mythical belief of the people. Yeah. All right. Next, Jamal. Now, then you can see how the old Banjaris so-called dressing, this is a new term, we call it busana adat. This is a new term, it's not an old term, right? And then later on you can see how this version. This is similar to, let's say, even Terengganu or Kelantan, you know, the old dressing, pre-Islamic, right? And then the Islamic dress, the Sultanate dressing, right? You can see that even in parts of Sumatra. So it's quite uncommon. But for them, it's distinctively Javanese style, right? Before it evolved into, you see, they're wearing the tengkolok, yeah? All right, next. So this is one of the pembesar of Banja. You can see by 19th century, they are wearing of this costume, yeah? This is typical baju muskat. Baju muskat is among Malay aristocrat, they wear. Right? And then you can see the samping, and then you can see the crease at the in front, right? Unlike the Javanese, which is they put it behind. Yeah. So this is where the court and the people must embrace. This is mandated to the people, right? To distinguish themselves from other groups, because all other groups are wearing their own. Yeah? Yang Melayu pakai Melayu, yang Bugis pakai Bugis at that time, right? So it must, and if it's not followed, something bad will happen. Right? This is quite interesting. So the state sanction is very strong here. It says here, according to the stories of olden times handed down by the elders, whenever the inhabitants of a country imitated the clothing of a people from elsewhere, misery inevitably fell upon the country that has turned to foreign ways of dressing. Macam kita ni semula, ya, semua pakai these are all universal, right? Nowadays, right? Yeah. So this is something that they want to. You can find this also the kind of pelanggaran adat in, let's say, in Kisah Pelayaran Abdullah, right? The rulers will expound that, if you transgress from the rules of the state, something bad will happen. Yeah? So misery means misfortune, and misfortune means that there is much evil in such a country, either because there is much illness among the people or because of the monsoons do not behave properly. That is, the northeast monsoon behave like the southwest monsoon, blah, 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 blah. So they are very concerned, don't disrupt the nature. Yeah, yeah. Bukan, I can't remember that. I will check for you. Yeah, it's the problem here is that my eyesight. Yeah, so to look at this text, yeah, that is page 265. Yeah, okay. If you want, I can look for you. 265. Yeah, okay. 264. Because it is side by side. Yeah, okay. Nescaya datanglah sengsara. Ya, if I read ya. Maka kabar cerita orang tua-tua dahulu kala, manakala orang negeri ini menurut pakaian orang negeri lain, nescaya datanglah sengsara pada negeri yang menurut pakaian orang negeri lain itu. Artinya, sengsara itu bala, artinya bala itu kejahatan di dalam negeri itu, dan seterusnya. Yeah, so this is a very what do I call it? Very harsh, very harsh command here. Yeah, right. So the cultural paradigm here being officialized, right? State imposed, and even they have a police. They have a police to go around. The next one, yeah. Yes, this is the police. Yeah, yeah. The police going around. Siapa yang tak pakai style Jawa, right? So this is very interesting. Page 337, yeah. 336. Yeah. Okay, you can read the English first, yeah, for my friends who can't. Yeah. So this is the so-called police, yeah. Kemudian daripada itu, kaum Singataka, kaum Singapati, orang Singabana ini ada berjalan dan berkayuh. Ia berlang-lang itu sentiasa. Means going around inspecting. Ya. Hari siang dan malam. Ya. Kalau ada maling, kalau ada orang berkelahi, kalau ada orang berzina, kalau orang tambung laku. Ya. Kalau ada orang memakai menurut pakaian negeri lain. Atau cara Melayu, atau cara Biaju, atau cara Mangkasa, atau cara Bugis. So this is a police lah, macam in Malaysia apa? The Khalwat police, yeah. But that is Khalwat police. This is police going around if you transgress the adat, right? Yeah. So this is the nearest I get kind of image I could, the Javanese kind of. A man going around roaming and looking at things. Okay, next Jamal. Right, so the cultural spectacle, the show of power. This is very interesting. How when a strong feature of their fabrics, their clothing, it becomes something which is repeated many times. And many of this clothing, I think it's even more colorful as compared to, let's say, Sejarah Melayu, which mention a number of fabrics, which, some of the fabrics we can't trace today, right? But this one is even more, right? So this is, and how it being worn, how they being worn, and so on and so forth, right? And the image here is one sampling of the Banjar batik here. Yeah? This is batik Banjar, yeah? And I'm sure, I think the techniques are from the Javanese, yeah? Okay, all right. Next, Jamal. So what happened? This is Lembau Mangkurat went to Java to the court. The Javanese were so impressed, and the Javanese said, "We have never seen people like this before. They are so refined, and they have loud music, right? So I think their troop, the gamelan troop, right? So the Javanese was like, who is these people, right? These are the Shah Banda, the Javanese Shah Banda. So they said, well, I want to see your ruler, Lambau Mangkurat say, all right? And then the Shabana said, okay, I'll report to the palace. They went to the court, and then the Javanese ruler was a bit shaky. Like made impress upon this text that the Javanese were also quite afraid of them. Like, wow, who these people? So refined, they wear so well, they have good music, right? And Javanese is amongst the most refined of all. And then they see an entourage which is more refined than them, yeah, it becomes a threat, right? To a point that when he entered the Singgasana, the Javanese, he didn't even pay a homage to the ruler, he just sat, right? And then the Javanese ruler was shocked, hey, never before, any foreign envoy just come and sit down, right? And then they were suspecting, maybe he has black magic. Right? The black magic means, make all the Javanese tunduk lah, something like that, right? Very interesting. I think the author, I will give him salute. If I have an award, I will give the author's award. Very intricate way of explaining this. Yeah. So you can read, for example, yeah, here before the harbor master, which means the Shabanda, right? Went to Labu Mangkurat and so on. They were asking. So this is what. And if you look at this, is where in the image here, this is where what the Javanese ruler wore, right? Different from what a Malay polity or wore, right? Maybe before the evolution, the Banjaris ruler were wearing like this, right? The Javanese style, and then later on it became Malayanized in that sense, right? All right, next, Jamal. Okay, this is quite interesting. The impressive grand entrance. Yeah? 15 minutes, yeah? Okay. Let me go very fast. Yeah, okay. Because the text is a very beautiful text, yeah? There's a lot of story to tell, yeah? Ini, actually in my class, Jamal, normally my lecture is 3 hours. Yeah, yeah. So it's 3 hours normally I can complete, yeah? So, 45 minutes is nothing to me, yeah? Okay? Yeah. Let me read in Malay, you can see the translation here, yeah? Lembu mangkurat berkain jingga diparamas, ya, dan sabuk cindai merah diparamas, basarwal, kimka hijau bertapi emas, bersasumping suring pati berurap-rurap sari. Menunggang kuda putih itu berjalan seperti orang pengantin lakunya, serta dengan bunyi-bunyian gamelannya. Dan patih pasi, patih baras, patih luhu, patih dulu, itu sama memakai awinan barulas kimka, merah satu-satu dan memakai kendanga lampit serta udutannya, and so on and so forth. This is amazingly, and these are very old Malay words too. Right? In many Malay texts, many of these words no longer appeared. Right? So we can also say that this text is also one of the oldest texts. Yeah? So this impressive entrance to the point that, the Majapahit courtiers were so impressed and they think that, they cast magic spell on them, right? Okay, next. What about the celebration, right? Celebration is the pinnacle of to show power, to show the wealth, right? So imagine the marriage between Raden and Putri Junjung Bue, and this is just a short one, guys, yeah? There are many more which is more elaborate, right? But one strong feature, dancing, yeah, dances, yeah, and the gamelan. And the gamelan got 3 types, right? The full gamelan, the minor, the middle one, and the minor one. And they take pride on this, right? And of course, we know, until today, the Banjaris had that, the gamelan tradition. So in Southeast Asia, the gamelan tradition transposed to Balinese, to the Maduris, the Banjaris, and then one set to, of course, the Sumatrans, and later on to the Riau, Lingga, right? And then eventually landed in Terengganu, and then returned and went back to Pahang, and then that's where the Malay Semenanjung gamelan set evolved. Gamelan Melayu, right? And of course, rulers throughout the centuries commissioned people to go to Java, yeah, to acquire gamelan set. Just like Sultan Trengganu went to Java and acquired that, right? Because gamelan is an important instrument for the court procession, right? Yeah, apart from their nobat, yeah, okay? So I will not go into this. This is just an example, yeah? And then you can see the content, yeah. So this is, you can imagine something like this. It's quite hard for me to get images, right? So something like this lah, that, you know, you can imagine people during the time of Banja Sultanate, yeah? And there's a strong link with the Dayak community. Yeah, the Dayak is, and of course the Dayak has several Dayaks, yeah? And generally in many parts of this world, when a non-Muslim or Dayak convert to Islam, they become Melayu in one way or another, yeah? Okay, next. Yeah, so this is the gamelan set, yeah? Margaret Kartomi has written a good article on the cultural dimensions of the Banjaris, yeah, okay. And even during the war, they play gamelan, yeah. So it's very interesting, you know, during the war. I mean, you can't imagine people during the war, you know, the critical period. People, I think it's part and parcel of, you know, getting the mood. Yes, the spirit, yeah, naikkan semangat, yeah, so to say, right? Next, Jamal. Right, so here is the images from the gamelan set in Banja, yeah, during the Dutch period. You can see there's possibly the one with a lot of trees at the background. That's the from the Rakyat, possibly. And then this one is being kept by certain, to my right, by certain household of the nobility, right? As you know, the Banjari Sultanate by 1850s were already like so-called shut down, disestablished by the Dutch, right? And then the three following rulers were the one fighting against the Dutch rule. Eventually, officially, 1905 they ended. Yeah, Riau ended 1908, right? And they ended 1905. Yeah. Okay. Next. Yeah. So this is interestingly, this is the third phase where the Sultanate was established when the Pangeran Samudra requested the Sultan of Demak. There was internal struggle, all right, to help to crush his rival power, which is actually his uncle. All right, and the Sultan of Demak will only help them if you convert to Islam. So he agreed, he converted to Islam, and then he assumed this title, Sultan Suryan Shah of Banja. Right? Okay, so this is the standard flag and the crescent of the Sultanate. I don't know, I think this one much come later. Right? So next. Yeah, so you can see that's where, you know, in yellow, the extent of the Banjari Sultanate, right? In the middle is Pangeran Antasari, right? The leading figure, yeah, that fought against the Dutch, right? And later on succeeded by Sultan Seman, and Sultan Seman was the last one, actually, right? This is the crest. And Antasari was made the Pahlawan Nasional in 1968, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. If you can see this in one of the Indonesian banknotes, I think, right? Next. And this is where the Banja conversion to Islam, right? And this is where, you know, it tells about, what do you call it, the establishment of that Sultanate. Yeah? The organization of the state under Suryanullah was perfect. It was accordance to the old tradition, conformed to what customary in Java. Even when they converted to Islam, the standard cultural code is still Javanese, right? And it's still being imposed that they can't wear things Malay, things Buginese, and they must wear things Javanese, right? And in fact, you can also see some of their architectural buildings, yeah, right? This kind of the rumah Jawa, what I call it? Joglo, Joglo Jawa. You can see, they call it Istana Kraton, and then penambahan. The title used in their palaces, they don't use Tengku, and so on. Okay, next, Jamal. This is actually the features of the mosque. This is the Sultan Surian Shah, the makam. You can read further about this figure, all right? The first sultan that converted to Islam. Next. And the wayang kulit next. Wayang kulit is another interesting feature in this text. Apart from the gamelan, right? Margaret Katomi also have, not based on this text, but from other materials, that Sultan of Demak reportedly sent a shipload of valuable gifts to Sultan Surian Shah, including at least one large heavy Javanese gamelan orchestra, wayang kulit, and dance mask. So the point here is this: whether the gamelan came before conversion of Islam or after the conversion of Islam. Based on this text, it was already there. The gamelan was already there before the conversion. And we know that gamelan set was also used as part and parcel of Islamization, because wayang kulit is an important medium for Islamization actually. Okay, next, Jamal. So we have this figure, Raden Sekar Sungseng, right? He was the cultural broker, right? That this dynasty brought in a new wave of things Javanese into the Banjaris. And you can see here, he was very skilled in the arts of wayang topeng, gamelan, gambus, joget, and other Javanese art forms. He and his wife, of course, and then all other things that being mentioned in this text. In fact, it's very exhaustive, Jamal, for me to go through, things cultural in this text. I was so amazed, Initially, I was like, well, just like any other Malay text, but this one is really intensive, the coverage, right? So, the pantun is longer than Sejarah Melayu. The pantun is beautiful pantun, right? And then there's Galanjur, Lokananta, Ranjangan, right? And then the Macan Gong, right? I can imagine how the cultural corpus is so rich in that sense, right? To tell you that, these are part and parcel of their state instruments. Next, Jamal. Right? Again, I think this is the genealogy of the ruler being written down in one of the records. And the picture below is the alun-alun in the center town, rather Majap, Banja. And Banjar's capital city often shifted, right? Just like in many Malay polities, it's often shifted, right? Sometimes they shift inland because of they want to prevent the attack of their adversaries. And among others is actually the Dutch, right? Just like in Riau, in Perak, right? Capital cities of Malay polities. That's the reason why it's very hard to get hold of their archaeological sites, because the shifting is very fast in that sense. Next. So here, and the gong, I cannot imagine what gong is that, right? It's called macan, which is tiger, right? Okay. Next. As that we have wayang, you see. There's wayang wong. This is typical of the Javanese repertoire. Wayang topeng, wayang wong, and elaborate celebration for 40 days and 40 nights. This is typical in many Malay states. All the weddings, 40 hari 40 malam lah, that kind of. Okay, next. And it's very multicultural. Okay. Then let's move on. I think that because I'm only retrieving things cultural from this text, right? Then by 19th century, we see in the past, it was the pepper trading, right? That actually the mainstay of the Banjaris. The reason why the Dutch wanted to enter into treaty with them and monopolize is actually pepper. And among others, there was also a presence of a strong Bugis community. Right? And you know, the Dutch were not very happy whenever there were Bugis around, because the Bugis mercenaries were always in cooperation with dissatisfied chieftains, and one of the wars is actually being supported by the Bugis groups, right, in that area. And then it bring about that long-drawn, about more than 50 years, Perang Banjar, right, between the Banjaris and the Dutch. What the Dutch did eventually, split up the Sultanate into about 3 principalities. Yeah? So it was ruled by all these smaller little things. So what they did in Java. Right? After the war, Diponegoro, Perang Diponegoro, they divided Java. Right? Okay. So what happened is this, what we can see from hundreds of gamelan and wayang sets were observed to exist in the Banjaris countryside in the 19th century. This is European observation. Right? Indeed, also another observation, the Banjaris metalsmiths were well known throughout the 19th century for their beautiful bronze gongs and elegant metal weapons that they made for local use and sailed through the Indonesian archipelago. Right? And of course, diamond, intan. Right? It is another specialty from the region. Right? And one of the war booty of the war was actually this big chunk of uncut diamonds that were brought back by the Dutch to Europe, and these smaller parts was made from that cut, right? And still you can see this in the museum in Holland. Yeah?
You can see a replica inside our special exhibition around Banjar later.
Yeah, okay. Replica, right? That's replica, yeah. Because it's expensive to bring. Okay, next, yeah. Okay, so therefore, I just want to give you the picture. These are the Banjaris nobility that I took from internet sources, right? And that time when already that small principalities, there are various principalities, they were no longer. So you can see how the Javanese ruler dressed, right? The court dress as compared to the Banjaris by I think 18th, 19th century, right? They already wore things like any other Malay polity. You can see, right? Yeah. The feature is the tanja and the samping, which the Javanese don't wear actually. Yeah. Okay. Next. And then the illustrious cultural polity came to an end. Right. This is a very sad episode. Yeah. In all history, in many history of colonized region. Right? Yeah. The Deutsch destroyed the later part 19th century. Yeah, they took it by force in 1908, instituting a period of repressiveness which goes so intense that the Banjaris migrated in the 20s and 30s. Right? First, they migrated to Samarinda, to their east, to their east, and then later on to other parts of the Nusantara world. Okay, and the war. This is the European impression of what they collected from that war. Yeah. Okay. The next. Yeah. This is the images of that war. It's about 50 years war. Right. Finally ended in 1905. Yeah. Next. Next. Yeah. So amongst the leader of that insurrection was Demang Lehman. Right, he who was assisting, if I'm not mistaken, assisting the last Sultan of Banjar, Sultan Lehman, yeah, and Demang Lehman is he was executed, he was hanged, and then they beheaded him and took the head and the skull to Europe, and that skull is still in the Dutch museum. Yeah, so we know that that's another sad episode of, he was one of the leading men who fought the war. Yeah, just like the Achinese was struggling at that period, same period. Yeah, right, next. Yeah, so today this is Banja Masin, right? I think culturally proud people. I was in Palangkaraya. I met Banjaris community. I've never been to Banja. Yeah, I only know Banja via this text. Yeah, so pardon me. I have Banjaris friends here. This is much I know from this text. Yeah, you can of course add and correct me. Yeah, in those areas that I've deliberated, but. Based on my research, this is where you can see today what Banja is all about. Right, next. What is Kayu Bimbai? I don't know. Baimbai, yeah. Kayu Baimbai. Yeah. Is it anyone? Oh, I see. I see. Like kayu bersama lah. Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Next. Then another part of today, the interest on Banja is of course on the Islamic tradition, right? Sheikh Muhammad Ashar al-Banjari, known for his Sabil Muttadin, right? And Kitab al-Muntaza al-Mahdi, yeah? This I use in my class. A very long text on the millenarian kind of Islam, right? And then of course his formulation of his fiqh, which is Kitab, which is very interesting, which calls for social justice. Yeah, among others, you you give land to the poor so that the poor can attain social stability. I mean, there's a very interesting fatwa, right? I will not go into that, but yeah. So it has that strong Islamic what they call tradition, right? And we know Banjaris are pious lah, right? In that sense, yeah. Right. Next. Yeah, so if you look at the map, those dotted with green ones are the one that the Banjaris, after the war, right, they migrated to that part of the eastern part of the Borneo. They also went out and they settled in parts of South Palembang, and of course the Malay Peninsula, including Singapore and Sabah. Yeah, I have a friend from Sabah who's a Banjaris also, right? Okay, maybe he's listening from Sabah today because he said he was, take pride of the Banjaris origin, right? But I said that you are in Borneo, right? You are more connected to the Banja heartland. Yeah. Okay, next. And the Banjaris, I would say that it sounds like in Bornean lah, right? Bruneian kind of style and speeches, right? These are some of the works that you want to take a look, yeah? Many of them actually, yeah? Some of them are quite popular type, some of them are more scholarly, right? And one thing about most of these books, sometimes when you read, you feel very sad. Because I think the tone is about all the lost, right? Yeah, I think the future is to forge ahead, right? Not just about the lost. Next, yeah, yeah. So if you look around things cultural today, if you have a catalog or list of what the Banjaris cultural achievement, there are many, right? You can still see around the wayang kulit. You can still see the hadra that in the middle, right? And then that percussion, the gamelan, right? And then the madihin, right? And then the Dayak dances, right? And then the old court dances, right? Okay, next. And then of course we have the zapin from Kampung Melayu in Matapura. And then there's these instruments, yeah? Panting, right? And then the other one is Kuda Kepang, yeah? And then of course the batik. Today all provinces in Indonesia must show of their uniqueness. So the Banjaris have their own batik tradition. They take pride of their sasirangan, right? And then of course they are well known for their berzanji and wirid and tahlilan, right? And this is Tuan Guru Mahmud. Yeah, I enjoy listening to his mengaji. Right, he is one of the students also of Abah Sekumpul, yeah, and then Tuan Guru Udin, I think, right? Tuan Guru Udin Tuan Guru. They are just like in Malay polity, their ulama is called Tuan Guru, and it's not called Kiai, for instance. Right? So you can see the differences there. Yeah. Okay, next. And then, of course, this is Madihin. Madihin is that, just now I show you, it's a kind like spontaneous syair, repertoire, all right? And then it's, I wish, you know, do we have Madihin in show in Singapore? No, yeah? I first listened to Madihin when I was in Jakarta at the ASEAN Literary Festival. It was fabulous, right? I mean, the person can just, the orator can just sing this song, this poem, long poem, no text, yeah? This is just like pantun, going on, and everyone sitting, right, so-called kena by him, right? Especially ministers, you know. So it's amazing, yeah? I dare not to do anything, but this is one example of disetop dahulu ulun bamadihan. If any of my Banjaris friends who can read this, it will be fantastic, right? Right? Yeah? Who's Banja? Oh, oh yeah, Jamal, you are Banja. I'm sorry, Jamal. Yes. I remember your wedding photo. You wore Banjaris.
Banjar Bugis. My wedding, I wore Bugis.
Oh, you wore Bugis. Alamak, sorry. Okay.
But today I wear Sasirangan.
Yeah. Alright, so di stop dahulu ulun bamadihan, ngalu kepala bapandir kada karuan, hendak rasanya ulun ngacak pian. I'm sorry, yeah, this is my pronunciation. I'm a Malay, so I don't know, yeah. And biar badian pian batawaan, yeah. Atas perhatian sampai di pahujungan, cukup sakian ulun memadahkan. Agar jangan salah dalam menerapkan anawan. Sadang bamanda, sadang pula batahan. Karena ulun sudah keuyuhan. Limbui bapuluhan, muntung sudah baliuran. Kepada hadirin mohon batapuk tangan. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Terima kasih.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Azhar, for sharing a bit about Hikayat Banja. I think you barely scratched the surface, I would imagine. I mean, it's so rich in, you mentioned the cultural dimensions and the descriptions of the courts, the descriptions of what attires they wore. And also, I think some of the things that you shared made me think about, we were quite lucky we got some of the things that we are presenting as part of this year's Culture Fest. I think yesterday during the launch, we had this dance, the Baksa Kembang, which, according to the choreographer, included elements of Javanese court, Old Java, meaning Majapahit, and Dayak, some bilin-bilin, like there's some remnants of Dayak tradition. So it was very interesting to see the dance and to get our audiences to try and see if they can identify which bit is Dayak, which bit is Malay, which bit is Javanese. Before I go on, for those of you who came in after I shared the slides and those of you at home, for the Q&A session, you can send it to Slido. Just take a capture of the QR code, and then I will read the questions on my handphone here. The reason we're doing this is because it's COVID-19 still. I cannot be passing microphones to you, and we of course need to record your questions since we are going online. So once your question comes in, I will share it with Dr. Azhar and we will respond accordingly. So if you have any questions, please start sharing it right now so I can see it on my phone. While you do that, I have a few things I want to check with you. Yeah. It's quite curious that you mentioned we don't know who the writer of the Hikayat is. But at the same time, you mentioned that the Hikayat was written in phases, right? So there's the Nagara Dipa phase, which is perhaps as far back as 15th century, maybe. And then the Nagara Daha phase, and then there's the Banjar Sultanate phase. It's probably not written by one person, kan? this Hikayat? Is it? I mean, we're talking about 100 years, so.
Yeah.
or
The
more.
speculation is most court have their own genealogy, which is the basic text, and then one writer compose one narrative. Right? So I think the one that we have today is written by one person. That's during the time of Islamic period. Right?
So it was compiled later by
Yeah.
one person. This person put all these
Yeah.
things together.
So I mean, the document was there around, all right? So just like Sejarah Melayu, right? The first version was in during the time of the Sultanate itself, but the version that we have today is, in fact, the text of Sejarah Melayu even covered the attack of the Portuguese, right? So it can't be, you know, it was written during the Malaccan Sultanate, right? So the nature of Malay texts of this type, right? And then it was compiled later by Tun Sri Lanang in the 17th century, right? But remember, right? Even though you have the author, the text is always, you know, after a few years, is always being recopied again. So perawi or those who copied again normally have their license to add and subtract whatever they wished. Yeah, that's where sometimes, you know, that's why we have a lot of version of this text. Of course, they don't do it, you know.
I mean, could you tell the tones? Does the tone differ between the various periods?
Yeah, so what J.J. Russ is doing, comparing to the recension 1 and recension version 1 and version 2, right? He used the version 1, which to him is the closest, where all the words are more archaic, right? And it more reflective, and it's a court text as compared to more what they call the rakyat version becomes the wayang version. Right? It's possible. I mean, this is where philology, they call it, yeah, the study of text, yeah, becomes very important.
Okay, this is not the first time we see a Malay ruler, you know, turun dari kayangan or descended from the heavens and stuff like that. And then, despite that very mystical, quite mysterious background, then they go on and marry someone who is just as mythical and just as mysterious in the Putri Junjung Bue. Because there's a lot of similarities and a lot of borrowing from the Javanese, I wonder if there's similarities in comparisons that you can find in the text, or maybe yourself, in your opinion, to the Javanese Nyai Loro Kidul and her relationship with Javanese sultans.
Yeah. So by the very choice of old Malay mythical things of Tanjung Pura and Putri Junjung Bue, yeah, which is of you know, old Malay polity will subscribe to these icons, right? So in that sense, my reading is that the Banjaris polity is based on that Malay mythical things, including the Dayaks, right, and the Javanese influence which came later.
So are there references of the Dayak myths in
no,
tak ada?
yeah, but they are the Dayak words can be noticed. Dayak words being used, and of course references to the Dayak people, right? It's like symbiotic, yeah. Say for example in Sejarah Melayu between orang Darat, which is orang asli, and the Malaccan people, right? For example, I would even want to speculate here, Putri Gunung Ledang, yes, right? Putri Gunung Ledang, if you read the text, is how a Malay power, which is a maritime base, have to deal with inland powers. The inland powers, who is inland? Orang asli, right? So, if you look at the myth of orang asli, all the gunungs throughout Banjaran Titiwangsa, all ada nenek. Yeah, you know, I have friends from the orang asli community, right? So they will go naik gunung because ada nenek. So Putri Gunung Ledang, right? Of course, the movie version, Putri Gunung Ledang from Java.
I was about to bring it up.
Yeah, right? But from the Malay text, no. It's not from Java. Yeah. It is the power. Because Malacca has to deal, as you know, has to deal with the Siamese, has to deal with the Chulas, the Indians, with the Chinese. And one power that they have to deal, which is equally strong, which is very magical, which is the inland people, which is orang darat. Right? We call orang Melayu, panggil orang asli, orang darat. Yeah? Because mereka di darat dan Melayu di pesisir, di pantai. Yeah. So, I think it's something like that in this case.
Yeah, because you brought up the orang darat. In the Hikayat Melayu, there's always the mention of the relationship between the Malay courts and perhaps an older indigenous community, which is the orang laut, right? And how the orang laut is always mobilized for fighting, defending the kingdom. Does the Hikayat Banja have a similar description or relationship between the Banja court and the Dayaks?
Not much. Not much from based on my reading. But other materials could show you to you. For example, how Malay rulers in Kalimantan areas communicated with the Dayak communities, the Dayak chieftains. How they do? Because the Dayak cannot read Jawi, right? You cannot send letters to them. So what they do is chop moho, right? So if the one chop moho means the Malay emissary, the pegawai will go to the Dayak area and show the Sultan send one chop. One chop means the Dayak chieftain will understand, okay, this is what they want. If it's two chop, it means other things, so the instruction. So it is very interesting, the chop moho becomes the way to communicate, because if you pass a Jawi text to them, they can't read, they don't read Jawi, right? They understand Malay. Right?
It's quite curious that the Dayak is almost, even though the language is in there, and also I think the Banjas would trace their genealogy to Dayaks. Right? One of the professors who was presented in the dance, one of the dancers for Lintas Nusantara mentioned that the Banja, if he did a DNA test, would be mostly Dayak. It's curious that there's this almost an omission of the Dayak myths from the book.
It may not be omission because it's already natural blending.
Oh, natural blending.
Yeah, it's natural blend. I mean, just like Malay and Orang Asli, right? I mean, how do you make a distinction, right? So over time of the marriages, right, it becomes quite natural for that sense.
Okay. We have some questions. One is from Shafiq Shahrum. Actually, Shafiq has two questions. I'll read them both for you to respond. Question one is it plausible that the genealogy of the Banjaris was actually reduced to writing from generational stories? That's question one. Question two, was there a shift in the mythological framework used in the Hikayat Banja from Hindu-Buddhist elements to Islamic mythology?
Okay, so this court dynastic myth will always be, that's why we call it embeddedness, overlaying of many things. So it's someone who crafted this must be a genius. I mean, he must be an ideologue of the palace. Right? You need to create that your genealogy comes from many supernatural beings. Right? And the best is to draw all the elements that you know, the corpus around you, and put it the best. I think that's happened in most historiographic texts.
Wait, you answered the second one.
Yeah. The first one is
the
first one. The question was on generation, right? Yeah. Of course, it's quite natural. It's from oral tradition, right? Passed down from one generation to another. But the moment it was written down, then it becomes a standard corpus, right? But at the same time, remember that this myth that circulated amongst the people still around, right? But the text becomes the standard one. This is how in all major polities, written text has more legitimacy as compared to the oral tradition. Right?
Okay. We have another question. This is from Anonymous. Don't want to know who they are. There's quite a few Anonymous. I would like to know the reason and the interest of the Banjar people in embracing Javanese culture. Is it related to any political interest to the Majapahit?
It's very hard for me to answer that, right? It's almost, I would say that there's a possibility that in the past there was already a link, right? That Ampu Mangkurat, Ampu Jatmaka, maybe he himself, right, from the Javanese heartland, right, that went over, right? In this part of the world, there's very interesting of this dimension called Raja Seberang. Raja Seberang is something that, for example, in Singapore, right? The one that become a Raja is a Raja from Palembang, right? The one that become Yang di-Pertuan of Negeri Sembilan is from Minangkabau, right? So someone will elect somebody from outside to become a ruler. This text shows something like this, right? It could be the memory on, say, the Mangkubumi and the Empu Jatmurat saying that he was Kalinga. Maybe that one is the old memory of the Indian settlement, Indian colonies. We don't know about that, right? Historian divided over, you know, the validity of that Indian colonization, right? But high chances of itself, maybe a Javanese ruler, right, made an expedition to the side of Borneo and then establish a polity. That's most likely. I don't know, because we don't have evidence here, right? This is speculation based on pattern that we see throughout the region.
But also at the same time, I think because Majapahit also had this desire to imperialize its territories.
Exactly.
So they did go out and colonize different areas.
And that's why Margaret Kartomi mentioned also. At times they are, you know, they are really embracing the Javanese, the Majapahit. But at times, you know, for example, they reject and then say we are more superior than the Javanese. Isn't that so? I mean that Lembu Mangkurat's episode, right? Telling that no, right? We are better than the Javanese. So in all texts, normally like this, right? Each polity will claim its superiority, just like in Sejarah Melayu, how Sultan Mansur went to Java, right? And how Hang Tuah, right, even defeated the most impressive of all Javanese warrior, Tameng Sari. He got the crest of Tameng Sari. Is that so, right? So all court texts will want to say that their country is better than the rest. So this is what, you know, sometimes we have to read with a pinch of salt, of course, right? I mean, these are court texts to legitimize their dynasty.
Well, we have one from Yisheng. In Salatu Salatin, it says Sang Nila Utama's brother, Nila Pahlawan, becomes the Raja of Tanjung Pura and slays Sakti Muna. Is this reflected in Hikayat Banja?
Yeah, so the Tanjung Pura is the very old mythical Malay state, right? Most probably it could be Tanjung Pura. Yeah, Pura is a very old name. That's why Singapura is one of the offshoot to this. Yeah, Singapore. Historian might, you know, cultural historian might be linking it to Sriwijaya, right? So Tanjung Pura and the one that you mentioned. That's why I mentioned just now that Tanjung Pura appeared in many Malay texts. Sejarah Melayu is one, and few other Sumatran texts. Yeah. But you don't see this in the Javanese text. This is different, right? Although they are things Javanese, but their mythology is not things Javanese, right? That's why they are put under the categorization of within the Malay belt, right? And they have two worlds, you know, right? And quite interestingly, those with two worlds are the most interesting ones because they get the best of many things. One example is Kelantan and Patani, right? You can see the sphere of Ayutthaya Khmer, Malay, and even the elements later on, even Javanese elements into via Terengganu and the rest.
So yeah, I think hybrid identities,
Yes,
where you borrow from different elements.
Culture has no zone, isn't it? So culture has no borders, right? Yeah.
Um, okay, this one is perhaps not linked to the Hikayat, but I'll try to make it. Someone wants to know what is famous Banjar food. How do I look for Banjar food in Singapore?
That one I wouldn't be able to answer.
If you are in the audience, maybe talk to some of the Banjaris representatives here. If they invite you home, maybe you can. But because of that question, I want to bring it back to the Hikayat Banja.
Yeah.
You mentioned a lot of cultural elements. Is cuisine described in there? Makanan-makanan Banjar, is it described in the book? I mean, it talks about the dress, the police, you're policing people dressing wrongly.
They have like the feast, but not detail about the food. I have not come across. Maybe I missed it. Yeah, I know I've not come across.
We should revisit that.
Yeah. Thank you. Because I think when we had the exercise on gastronomy of Nusantara, we tried to get it from Malay texts, yeah? Any available Malay text, we have not come across. And I think other researchers too are looking around, even in Sejarah Melayu, right? They tell about the food etiquette, makan berdulang, berapa ramai orang, but they never tell us about what food they eat actually. Rendang ke, lauk korma ke, lauk merah ke.
Perhaps even that, like, because they borrow or take quite a bit from the Javanese, whether some of the things might seem similar to Javanese punya cara makan.
But again, Jamal, there's also many Javanese here. The Javanese standard that we understand could be Central Java. But the one that we are dealing here with is actually coastal Javanese.
And older Javanese as well, I think.
Maybe older, or the inland one is more older. So the coastal one is actually more of the hybrid. Yeah. So anyway, those who in the coastal areas are the one who actually get more influence, right, from outsiders.
Okay. There's this question. It's actually more of a comment, really. According to Hikayat Banja, there are no Dayak words inside. I just want to say that there's it's actually the coastal Dayak.
Coastal Dayak.
Yeah, Ngaju Dayak words are found in the book. There's Malay, but not standard Malay. It's court Malay. Colloquial Malay.
So there are three elements, linguistic elements in this text. What we call literary Malay, standard Malay, and then the Banja Malay, the colloquial, and then of course
the Arab also, Arab and Javanese.
Arab enter via Malay lah normally.
Okay.
All right, and then Javanese word, of course, especially when it comes to the court ceremonies and names.
Would the Arab words come a bit later during the Islamic period? Or do you find it peppered?
As I said, that these texts, most Malay texts were written during the Islamic period, right? So that's where Arabic words come into being.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, someone wants to know why are the Banjaris considered Malays, but Javanese and Bugis are not? I think this is more anthropological. But I don't know if you can respond to that.
Yeah, maybe I think the closer to its language family. That's the high likely. The Bugis has its own linguistic style and writing system, right? Javanese too, right? And then if you look at the Banjaris, and then of course the coastal Malays, in Sukadana, Sambas, in Sarawak, right? They identify themselves generally as Malay. What happened is this quite interesting. On their own, they will claim, we are from this particular A or B or C. Right? But when they are confronted with the Javanese or the Bugis, then they say, we are Malays. Right? This is how it works. This is how it works. It happens all throughout this region. Right? For example, in Sarawak, right? You have the Melanau, the Melayu, and so on. Right? So, if you talk to them, they will say, well, we are this A, B, C, D, E. But the moment Chinese came into the picture, or let's say the Dayak came to the picture, then they said, no, we are Melayu. So it depends on the situation here. It's quite interesting that, That's why we said that Malay is a cultural terminology. Malay is a cultural or category. Malay is not ethnic category. Yeah.
Well, because of that question, talking about what is Malay, what is Javanese and Bugis and all that, does the Hikayat Banja, because it does describe relationships with the Javanese and it does describe itself in quite lofty terms, does it have references in terms of the Banjar's relationship with other Malay polities or Bugis polities?
Yeah, it mentioned about Malacca for sure. It's it's Malacca.
And how?
Yeah.
Does it mention
trade
this?
relations. Trade relation. It also makes distinction that you should not dress like the Malays. Jangan pakai macam Melayu. So it means that they are very conscious, right? They are very conscious that they are not Malay also in things Malay. But as I've said, the one that we see today is an evolution. It's a long maybe about what? 600 years of evolution. Yeah. So it's possible that in the early period they are more Javanic, right? But later they become Malayic, if I may use the term, right? Nanti pakai Melayu pula nanti marah ya, nanti bukan Melayu ya. I mean Malayic in the sense that why? Look at the fashion dress today, right? You don't see the Javanese wearing tengkolo. You don't see the Javanese. All Javanese court ceremonies, the men are wearing that like kain wirun, yeah, right? They don't wear tengkolo. But if you see all throughout, from Aceh right up all the way to Ternate, yeah, they wear tengkolo.
No, I think also there's a shift in terms of their own how they see themselves. I think because when we were doing research for the special exhibition and also the festival, one of the main textiles we were looking at is Aiguchi and the Sasirangan.
Yeah.
And digging a bit deeper into the Sasirangan, it wasn't always something they wore. It was always part of a healing ritual, the Puntingan. And Sasirangan became, it's almost an incidental baju adat orang Banjar later on when it became more popular and chemical dyes came in. So I think the thinking that, oh, I am Banjar because I am like the Malay or I am like the Javanese, it would have evolved over time. Right? And today it's a bit more firmed or more familiar to us perhaps. In the past, perhaps it was always fluctuating.
Yeah, and it would be interesting if someone can do a comparison between the Palembang, right? But Palembang too have that Javanese influence too, isn't that so? Right? And then do in the Banja, but after all, right? I mean, this is where the richness of this Nusantara, isn't it so? Right? Yeah? We are talking about cultural orbits. Yeah? Not orbit in Malay, orbits. Yeah. Cultural orbits, the constellation, right? I remember when I was in Java at one time, I was in Indramayu, and then there are Bantenese people, in the one side of that area. Then my Javanese friends will say that, well, itu kampung Melayu itu. Yeah, then I was thinking, but when I went there, nobody says that they are Melayu. Because the Javanese say, those who are not them are Melayu. Because at home, they don't speak Javanese. Right? They speak something like Batawi or Bantenese kind of words, And they make decisions. And they know that this is Sundanese, this is Melayu, and this is Javanese. So if you don't speak Javanese at home, you're not Melayu. That's how the categorization, But then when you go to that village, nobody said that they are Malay. Because the Javanese say, anyone who are not us is Melayu. That's, how do you explain that, right? So anthropologists have problem, when they come to this region. Study, they cannot make sense, no. This sekejap cakap lain, I mean, this is how dynamic this region is, right?
No, we have that problem all the time. We are the Malay Heritage Center, right? Yeah. So, what do? We can't define it. So we're always unpacking new things and learning new things and discovering new, I guess, definitions of Malay. So it's still growing and it's still changing. It's quite a fascinating thing. I think I have one last question for you, Dr. Azhar. If you were to look at the Hikayat Banja and its descriptions of the courts and the protocols, because that's one of the things that it tries to do. It tries to create a sort of a model for political organization in the Banja court, and also to set certain standards. Would you say, based on the descriptions, it is really a hybrid of Javanese and Malay, or is it heavier to one side? And which elements would you say are Malay and derived from which potential Malay polities could it have been drawn from?
I would say that the Javanese element is part of that show of power, right? That strength and that part of their ancestral memory also, right? But like it or not, they are within that Malay belt area, right? Within that southern Kalimantan, right? Which is, in terms of linguistic family, it's Malay, it's not Javanic. Yeah? And one thing about this text as compared to, there are few other powerhouses in Kalimantan itself, right? One is Kutai, which is more inland, right? And then the other side is the Pontianak, Sambas, and so on, right? But I think because for quite a long time, this Sultanate has a strong grip, right? So the power within, the projection of power is within that domain. For example, when you read Sejarah Melayu...
So they compare with each other, they're competing with each other.
They were in the comfortable position, no need to compete because it's all far away, right? Okay. So they are able to carve out their own, right? Compared to Sejarah Melayu, when you read the tone, you can sense that they were writing it for the successor state, which is Johor, right? Writing for a successor state. This one, no, they are not writing for successor state. They are writing for its comfortable position in that domain of the Banjar. So I don't see, that's why I think, the assertion on things Javanese, right? I think also to make the distinction with the rest, right? That they had a more, what they call it, more illustrious past.
So, Kutai and Pontianak would have less Javanese influence?
Pontianak will come much later. It was the Sharif, one of the nobility from Riau that came over and opened Pontianak, right? And then for Kutai, it's much older, right? And Kutai actually not much happening lah. Yeah, we just remember, Banjar is a prosperous trading area. The pepper is one of the most valuable things, that being cultivated. But one interesting fact, we don't know until today why it's mentioned in this text that the ruler said, that the ruler advised the people, don't cultivate pepper. Because your country will become a place like something like tempat ada pohon pisang yang selalu orang datang untuk ambilnya. Something like that, okay. So it repeated few times in this text.
So it's a warning that you'll be pillaged.
Yeah, so he said that people will come and get your things, right? And we don't know that maybe that conservative ideology, right? At the one hand, they were prosperous because of pepper, but on one hand, there's I think 3 times mentioned in this text about telling the people don't cultivate pepper because best you cultivate food, and food will sustain the community, right? Fruits and so on and so forth. So I think this is one anachronistic when they were dealing with the Dutch. Yeah, when the Dutch had that policy of monopolizing things. See, so I think this order was inserted later.
Okay, we just have one last question that just popped up from Faiza Jamal. It seems to me that Borneo sits at the center of the Malay world, yet not much of its material culture is written about. Why do you think this is the case?
Yeah, I think one of it is actually in scholarship, right? Even in, let's say in Semenanjung, right? The primacy is always given to Melaka, not even to Kelantan or Patani, for instance, right? There's always this obsession on even in Indonesia, right? More focus given on Java, not the outer island, right? I think scholarship like J.J. Rans, Sands, you know, I mean, they did a good job, right? But there was no follow-up scholarship, right? There were many books published, but it's in Bahasa Indonesia, all right? It doesn't come much into the research interest, yeah? And for that matter, even the study of the Bornean people is actually, the indigenous of Borneo is one of the, on the lowest scale. I'm not saying it's lower, but you know, not much interest enticed, yeah? What more of this group, yeah? And for example, let's say the Bugis, right? They has that strong memory, cultural memory, even stereotype. Then people like to, you know, go to the Bugis, the study of Bugis, Ila, Galigo, and the rest, right? But Banja, Pontianak, Sambas, even Brunei, let's say, right? These are all Malay polities in the Kalimantan, has never been given. Even, say, Jambi, Palembang, yeah? Asahan, Delhi, Haru. Delhi, we hardly know Delhi, right? Which is one of the important sultanates, right? So I think because we pay attention too much on Sejarah Melayu, which is Melaka, we don't give attention to other Malay polities, right? Yeah? And other indigenous polities, for example, the
No, I think this is also a call for researchers out there to perhaps look into this area. We welcome more researchers to come work with us.
Exactly, and more so, I mean, in the English medium, right?
Yeah.
Which, I mean, there are highbrow scholarship, but never get into the middle readership, right? Yeah, and then those that being deliberated in Bahasa, sometimes it's a bit too popular, right? That it doesn't come up also as legitimate studies. Yeah. So we need in between, and the struggle is that, right?
Okay, that's all we have for today. Thank you so much for your kind attention, for audience watching at home as well. Thank you, Dr. Azhar, for sharing insights into the Hikayat Banja. Okay, just before I go, this lecture is part of our public lecture series as well as our ongoing exhibition, Orang Banja, Heritage and Culture of the Banja in Singapore, as well as the Malay Culture Fest 2020. The Malay Culture Fest will run from today until 13th of December. We have a microsite, I have to say it again. It's malayheritage.gov.sg/MCF2020. So do check it out. We have programs coming up every weekend, all the highlights every weekend coming out. So we will also have updates on Instagram and on Facebook. So do join us or sign up into our Facebook. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And also do drop by to the Malay Heritage Center to take a look at the special exhibition on Orang Banja. Okay, that's it for now from Malay Heritage Center. Thank you again, Dr. Azan. Thank you all for being with us today and enjoy your weekend. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Oh, sorry, I forgot one more thing. Why are you not moving? Oh no. We also are looking for feedback, but my clicker is not doing it. There should be. Aina, can I click it forward for the feedback punya QR code? Is it asleep? Okay, yes. So if you have any feedback for today's session, this is the QR code for you to give us the feedback. Your feedback is very important to us. It lets us know how well we're doing and how else we can improve and serve you better. Yeah. Now, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.